like to call this meeting of the City Council to order. Can I have a roll call, please?
Councilman Orchikowski.
Here.
Councilperson Thomas.
Here.
Councilman Nestor.
Present.
Councilman Gregor.
Here.
Mayor Motion.
Present. At this time, I'd like to invite Pastor Reverend Bass to lead us in a prayer.
Lord, we thank you for your loving kindness and your tender mercies to us. We thank you how you let us get up this morning and kept us all day and spared us that we could come to another council meeting. And God, as we pray, we ask you that you would bless the mayor, you would bless council and the other participants, God, that are sitting with the council, and we ask you to bless every participant. Give us the wisdom that we might lead and guide our city. Bless the efforts of our hands tonight and lead us on to victory. We ask this in thy name. Amen.
Amen.
This time we have a pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, I'd like to open the floor to public comment on agenda items only. Oh, there's approval of the minutes. I apologize. We have first off approval of minutes of the previous session, May 26th. I'll need a motion.
Second, Mayor. Motion to approve the minutes of the previous session, May 26, 2022.
Second.
Are there any questions? Call roll.
Councilman Nestor.
Aye.
Councilman Gregor.
Aye.
Councilperson Thomas.
Yes.
Councilman Orchikowski.
Yes.
Mayor Motion.
Yes. Now I'd like to open the floor for public comment on agenda items only.
Ernie Todd Travis, 29 Rex. I have three questions. One, how long is the code officer going to be out of commission?
He's back in service now.
Then why is that in there?
Well, because I will explain that a little bit later on, but while he was out, we took emergency measures.
Okay, and did you make any other purchases without council's approval, like the sinks?
There's been no purchases without approval from the chief financial officer, and he's authorized to do that. But all the information was processed through information to all the council members.
Okay, and then last question. Why is WEC always gets paid up front all the time? Like, you guys don't delay more than 2 weeks.
Well, first off, that's part of the USDA sewer project, and he is the engineering firm that did that project. So we've already paid him probably something in excess of $1 million thus far already. He is the one that did all the permitting, the design drawings, everything that's going along with that project. It's interesting too, because the invoices we get were never quite the level of detail that we really hope. But in this particular case, he documented that it was for plan design, including plan views and profiles, permit preparation, easement of field work and deed preparation, and specification preparation. So that's what we're paying for tonight. And by the way, we're not paying for it tonight. We're submitting it to the USDA for their approval. From there, it goes to PNC Bank, and then we get one last chance before we actually make the payment.
Oh, okay.
Any other questions on agenda items? I don't believe there was any correspondence, is that correct?
Correct.
We now have the opportunity for the pleasure of introducing Tom Hardy, He's a blight consultant for the city of Monessen, provided through funding and support through the Housing Alliance of Pennsylvania. Just for everybody's information, in April of last year, during a city council meeting, the prayer administration there's interference from one of them. But anyway,
Maybe that one's too close. Yeah. That's
Yeah, I
probably
think
too
you gotta
close.
shoot close to your mic.
yeah, that's awesome. During the April 13th meeting of 2021, they passed a resolution number 12 of 2021, which is what brought him on, and that is through a DCD grant. So just for a little bit of introduction. With that said, I'm going to give you this mic, and hopefully it's not going to be too terribly noisy.
Thank you, Mayor, and members of council. Appreciate the opportunity to talk to you tonight about the blight work that I'm going to be engaged with you on. So, like the mayor said, I am a consultant with the Housing Alliance of Pennsylvania. I live in Pittsburgh, so they're a statewide organization. They do blight work around the Commonwealth. When they do that, they contract with folks like me that are more local and can be in the community and essentially work on the blight planning. So what I'm going to talk about here for the next couple minutes is just the work that I'll be doing to support you in the implementation of the blight strategies that are part of the comp plan that was adopted in 2021. But I wanted to start and just, I think everybody kind of knows what blight is, but just to give you a little bit more context on what we're going to be talking about, we're really focused on properties that are abandoned, vacant, right, where the owners have either walked away or they're deceased, there are no heirs, right, they're what we consider kind of dead-end properties. So, how do you address that? How do you address the blight? So, I think we all understand, and certainly in looking at your comprehensive plan, blight was a key priority, and I think we all understand from the safety perspective why that is, and also from an image perspective why that's important. I wanted to offer you a little bit of a financial perspective on that as well, because I've been to several of your council meetings and understand how hard you all work to essentially work with the resources that you have and be good stewards of the taxpayers' resources. And so when you look at blight, there was a study that was done on communities that are just up the river from here. So these are other Mon Valley communities. They did a study that looked at what is the cost of blight to these municipalities in direct costs. So what that means is that's like your police calls, your code enforcement, and then the lack of collecting taxes on these properties. So when they looked at that, what they found was on average, each blighted property costs the municipality, so the town, the city, an average of $960 a year, right? So that's essentially lost revenue each year. So when you look at, in Monessen, right, when you did the inventory of properties, you had about 375 properties that would fall into that blighted category. So if we're able over the next couple of years, right, let's say we address half of those, right, even addressing half of those at the figures I just went over, that's around $150,000 a year, right? Think about what an additional $150,000 of resources would mean. So just want to offer that as, that's why this work is really critically important. So I want to make, I guess, 3 points about where I think, I can be involved and where the city is now in terms of the blight work. So the first thing that I would say is that you've done a lot of the important groundwork already. So I work in a lot of communities throughout Western Pennsylvania, and sometimes I'll walk in and they don't even know how many blighted properties they have. You've done all that research already. You have a comp plan. You've identified the blighted properties with the help of the county. you've done work in the previous years in terms of passing ordinances. So you have a tax forgiveness program, for example. So I know the mayor is working on making improvements to that program, and I'm going to be involved in that as well. So the idea there is that folks that take advantage of the tax forgiveness program, they're living up to their end of the bargain as well, right? Making sure that they invest in those properties and live in those properties in exchange for getting the tax forgiveness. So that's one area that we'll be working on. The other thing that you've done that I think puts you ahead of a lot of other communities is you have a blighted review board, right? So that's a commission that's overseeing a lot of this work. You've got folks on that. So again, you're in a good position in terms of kind of being ready to take advantage of what I think are going to be some important opportunities that come down in terms of funding. So the next point around blight is that there's no single silver bullet or strategy that's going to help in all situations. So we look at this really as almost, think about this as like a toolbox, right, where you have different tools depending on the scenario. So for example, you have your tax forgiveness program. That's going to help in situations where you got a property that can be rehabbed, right? You have other properties that are probably too far gone. Those are going to be probably demolition candidates. And then thinking about what happens to the vacant lot after that. Is that a side yard for a neighboring property owner? Is that a development site, right? So we're going to help think through a lot of these things. And then the other thing that's important when you think about a blight strategy, and again, we're talking about vacant properties, but what about the properties where you've got folks living in nearby, folks that may need some assistance with, maintaining their properties? So we've worked, so if you look in what McKeesport did, they did a lot of demolitions recently, but they also worked with an organization called Rebuilding Together Pittsburgh. And so Rebuilding Together Pittsburgh came in and helped senior homeowners that maybe couldn't afford to do important renovations. So that's another part, again, that's another strategy that fits into this blight toolkit. And then the third point that I'll make is that you're fortunate here in Westmoreland County, you have the Westmoreland County Land Bank. So land banks in Pennsylvania were set up precisely for the purpose of addressing these kind of dead-end abandoned properties, clearing title to those. Now I can tell you in working, again, throughout Western Pennsylvania, Westmoreland County Land Bank is considered a leader in land banking. So you have a great resource there, and really part of what I'll be doing and working with you is defining exactly what that relationship looks like, right? Because again, it's an important resource. It's not the only resource. It's not the right, they may not be right for every particular vacant property, but we want to make sure that that's an important part of the mix. So let me just conclude before I open it up for your comments and questions. One of the things I get asked a lot is, well, we've had these vacant properties for years, or in some cases decades. Are we really going to see a change here? Is this really possible to make an impact? And so what I can tell you is that it's not easy, right? If it were easy, it would have been done a while ago, but I can point you to other communities that have similar conditions as the city of Monessen that have made significant impacts in not a long period of time. And one that I'd reference is the city of Sharon. It's up on the Ohio state line. It's a little bit larger than 10,000 people. They've got, it's a former steel town, right? So they have kind of industry leaving, had to deal with that. But in the last several years, what did they do? They had a blight plan, and they were just relentless in working that plan. They had elected leadership and a city manager. They were all on the same page. They started having success. And you know what happened? When other folks saw the success that they were having, they wanted to be a part of it, right? So it was almost like a magnet for other money and resources. So for example, they were successful in demolishing properties. The city saw that, or the state saw that, hey, they're really making progress. The city came in with a grant that helped them, the state came in with a grant that helped them accelerate those efforts. So, it is possible. I think you're in a good place to start. I'm pleased to be a part of it. I thank you for the opportunity. I'll just close there and welcome any questions or comments that you have.
Okay, Tom, I have 2 questions. One, there's an old adage that says, when in Rome, do what the Romans do. Government has this fantastic myth that what goes on in other cities and towns, you could apply locally to, let's say, Monessen. Monessen has its own conditions and problems. So what may work in Sharon or Pittsburgh may not work here. So specifically, I'm also not getting a complete, detailed read from you. How are you going to correct the blight in Monessen? Where's the money's coming from? How are you going to do it? You gave us a good summary description, but you didn't give us the tactics.
Yeah, it's a great question, and you're right to point out that not every city is the same. I would say the one thing I didn't say is that, each city, in terms of blight, tailor that toolbox to the conditions that are in the city. What I can say, again, we're getting into this, right? So more detail to come, but, generally speaking, I think that you've got the strategy is going to include, right, strategic demolition. Some of these blighted properties are ones that are past the point of being able to salvage, right? So they need to be addressed through demolition, and then thinking through, okay, the remaining lot, is there a homeowner next to it that wants to take that as a side yard? Is it a development site? I know you've had some developers come in and talk about what they might be able to do, so I think that's part of it. I think the other thing that's going to be part of it, Ernie, is that, how are we, part of the planning process and the strategy has to support folks that are here, homeowners that are here, and recognize, I think to your point, that, here you've got, if you look at the demographics, you've got a, fairly sizable elderly population that may not have the resources to invest in that roof, right? So can we find other resources through the state, through organizations that do that to support them? So I think it's going to be, like I said, it's going to be a tailored approach that has, multiple components there.
I'll talk a little bit more about that too.
What are land banks? What are land banks?
Land banks. So land banks were created in the state of Pennsylvania about 10 years ago. And they were created specifically because what you found in basically the way that state law worked in Pennsylvania is that, let's say that somebody died, didn't have any heirs, or didn't pay their taxes and walked away, the time that it took a municipality to basically do what's called clear the title on that property and have it be offered for sale to someone that would be able to pay the taxes, that could take 18 months or 2 years, right? So basically it was just taking so long to turn these dead-end properties around. So a land bank is basically it's an entity, it's a nonprofit that has powers to expedite the quiet title process, to clear these titles and then turn around. And again, land banks, sometimes they'll offer the properties publicly for sale, right? So a single family house, the owner has long passed, there's no heirs, land bank clears the title to that, offers it publicly for sale, right? So the land bank is designed to do what's called land recycling. So to basically turn properties around, get them back on the tax rolls and for productive use. And again, the land banks were given powers that municipalities or even authorities don't have in terms of being able to shorten and quicken that quiet title process.
Are they able to do that with homes that are in the hands of banks now, where the owners are no longer living and the banks have more doing anything of maintaining properties, but aren't answering any calls?
That's a good question. I mean, A lot of times, what you'll find with those bank-owned properties is that the banks are still paying the taxes. In a lot of cases, so that makes it difficult then for a land bank to step in and clear the title on those, because there's still an owner that's current on taxes. We have seen, basically, to address the issue that you're talking about, we have seen vacant property registration ordinances, which require, that bank owner to register that property and provide a local contact or a local agent. Because a lot of these banks, right, when they foreclose, you might be dealing with someone in St. Louis.
So you're saying they normally have a contact person?
Well, what I'm saying is there's, what some cities have done is pass what's called a vacant property registration ordinance. And what that ordinance does is require banks or vacant property owners, let's say somebody owns a vacant property but lives out of state, they have to designate what's called a local agent. Someone locally that if, your police chief has an issue, they need to be able to call somebody locally, right? And the way that this ordinance is set up, that's not done, right? They're in violation, they can be fined and so on. So I'm sure, solicitor probably seen that in other communities, and that's a tool that, the problem that you're talking about is very real. So it is one tactic that can be used.
There's one other case where that works out quite well too, though. I can't remember the street it was on, but I was invited to a house to look at this house that had been vacated for some 10 years. It's not had anybody in it. And the problem with this house was, besides the taxes, was there was a bank lien against this house. The people that own the house have deceased. This bank lien will never be satisfied. That's where the land bank can also, with the way they acquire the properties, move it through the judicial process, which eliminates all prior liens except for federal liens.
Yep.
So out the other end, this property that would otherwise be untouchable becomes a property that can be put back into productive use.
That's right.
Can I ask you a question? I just want to have a clear understanding. My name is Peanut, 45 North River. How that correlate with the taxes that are due to the school in the city? How is your place of entitled, I guess, to how that correlates in taking care of the taxes that is owed by the city, that is owed to the city and to the school board, and then the county has to say so on it
In
also?
most cases,
Where do we fall into that?
in most cases, the back taxes become somewhat of an issue. They can be exonerated by the city, by the school, by the county, independent of each other. They can go through a judicial process, and that eliminates not only bank liens, but it eliminates prior taxes. But in the end, if you have a property that has lots of back taxes associated with it, what value is that? You're not getting the money.
Well, I guess my question becomes, because I know that you counsel and yourself been dealing with the school and the county on people that owe taxes to some of this vacant houses or buildings. So my question remains the same, what is your role on that?
His role is more of a planning thing, a guidance role. He's going to help us guide our way through this maze of tax exoneration, of blight identification, of coordinating the blight removal. His role is more of a role of coordination, as I understand it. He's not one that has a pocket full of money. He's not going to be the one that pays to get a house demoed, but he will help us through the process of finding the funds to get that done.
How long would you process?
I'll talk a little bit more about that, but there are processes that we're working on currently that he's well aware of with the county. The county has ARP money that they received last year. That money, they're fixing to come out with the second edition of ARP money. The problem is the federal government saying, hey, all these communities and states and so forth that we've been giving ARP money to have not spent the money. So they're putting a lot of pressure on everybody to spend that money. Westmoreland County, our commissioners, they received $104 million. That's not Nick Lanny stuff, back in last summer. they're down to about $12 million. Now, they dished out some to mental health care, some to rental assistance, some to different programs that were identified by the federal government as being viable for ARP funds. It now comes down to, they've been told, or what I've been instructed is, they've been told to spend this remaining $12 million on the 5 U.S. Census-defined economically depressed zones in Westmoreland County. Monessen is 2 of those 5 zones. So Monessen is highly likely, they've not announced this publicly, but it's highly likely that we will receive the benefit of a vast amount of money. Now, they're not going to give us the money. I can tell you that right now, too. The Westmoreland County has their own redevelopment authority. They have their own land bank. And they've been actively working on this. Whereas in the past, they moved about 50 properties county-wide through the judicial process. This year, they've held 4, or they will hold 4 judicial sales. Each one of those sales, instead of doing 50 properties, is going to do in excess of 100 properties. And this is being guided by the Westmoreland County Land Bank for reasons that he just described. That he has taken property that's sitting in this unsold la-la land for many, many years and ending that cycle, putting it through a judicial process. It eliminates all the taxes, it eliminates all the liens, except for federal liens. That's the only thing they can't do, is federal liens. Very few homes ever get a federal lien, but that's the only thing they can't touch. And I really, truly believe, they've never told me this, but I really, truly believe that they're doing this in preparation of the Blighted program. That's the only reason why they would have gone to such pains to put pressure on the Court of Common Pleas to process this many properties through this many sales each year. And they'll do 400 to 500 this year. So, well, is there any other questions to him? We can go on and talk about some more things in more detail about some of the things he talked about too.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
At this time, ask the solicitor to give us his report.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everybody. Over the last course of the 2-week period, to work with the city administrator to go over some of the processes regarding the vendor permit application. Mr. Korposh put together just some paperwork and an actual application to go through that process. On tonight's agenda is the first reading of an amendment to the city's line usage ordinance. Back in January, council passed an ordinance that divided up the $27 flat fee based on its specific purpose for the USDA project, the holding tank, the Penvest project, general maintenance. It's going to be changed, so the total amount of money that the city will be transferring to those specific accounts, that's what will be accounted for versus $15 here, $5 there, $7 there. It's just to hold the city accountable to make sure they have enough money in those appropriate accounts to pay any debt service. The mayor, the city engineer, and I met with representatives of the Mon Valley Sewage Authority this week to discuss ongoing sewage issues, including the city projects that are going to be ongoing and the sewage authority holding tank project. And finally, no appeals were filed for the CDBG demolitions that the city had demolition hearings on a couple months ago, and those are now clear to be demolished. That's all I have for this evening, unless there's any questions.
Thank you. Billed the city 5 hours, so that's what the extent of that cost the city. That was something that was circulated throughout council through an email, so everybody was made well aware of what we were doing. If there's ever a question about those things, you can always contact the city administrator going forward. Can you call the roll?
Councilperson Thomas?
Yes.
Councilman Nestor?
Aye.
Councilman Gregor?
No.
Councilman Orchakowski?
Yes.
Mayor Mosher?
Yes.
Motion to authorize the solicitor, motion to authorize the solicitation, motion to purchase order to replace a sink in the rest area of the Herman Village Boat Launch.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions?
Just a comment. This was a situation where someone went in and smashed the sink. And so this is someone that need, that's why we're doing it. They already had it taken down and they had ordered a new sink.
Is there any charges against this guy?
We don't know today.
Just vandalism.
Was there a leak?
Pardon me?
Was there a leak in the facility?
No, someone went in and they either took a brick or a hammer or a pipe and they just smashed a hole through the sink. I guess you can't have nice things.
Call the roll.
Councilperson Thomas,
Yes.
Councilman Nestor,
Aye.
Councilman Orchakowski,
Yes.
Councilman Gregor,
Aye.
Mayor Mosher.
Aye.
All right, now here we go. Motion to authorize the solicitation of 3 appropriate bids for the repairs of 3 inlets within the city of Monessen, which include an inlet on 125 McKee and 2 additional inlets in the corner of 9th and McMahon, and for 2 additional storm grates at 3rd and Schoonacre in the city of Monessen.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions?
Point of clarification, you guys did receive estimates for this work?
We have estimates for the 3, and they're getting further estimates for the other 2 grades.
Okay, but I guess the point in the question was they were gonna be under the bidding threshold, correct?
Yes.
So then should be 3 quotes, because it's not gonna need to go through the formal bidding process.
Okay.
You're not designing specifications or putting out bids and advertising, it's just gonna be a request for quotations.
Okay.
Thank you.
Question, the 2 additional storm grates, are they replacing crates that are there?
Yes,
That are
they're
damaged?
the trucks and all that just busted the grates.
Okay.
Call the roll.
Councilman Nestor,
Aye.
Councilman Gregor,
Aye.
Councilperson Thomas,
Yes.
Councilman Orchakowski,
Yes.
Mayor Mosher.
Aye.
Motion to approve the appropriate product, Pinnacle Data Access offer from PNC Bank for the USDA sewer rehabilitation, financial monitoring, and interaction activities at a cost of $30 per month.
Is there a second?
Second, Mayor.
Any questions? Call the roll.
Councilman Gregor,
Aye.
Councilman Nestor,
Aye.
Councilperson Thomas,
Yes.
Councilman Orchakowski,
I have an issue with that. I just think PNC should have been waiving the fees.
I agree.
You know, they're making enough money off of it to sit there because we need to see data. They're gonna charge us for it. I have a personal problem with that, but, yes.
Look, he dropped the pipe.
Mayor Mosher.
No,
Yes.
they can't. They gave us the loan.
Yeah, it's like going to your parents asking for money and then smack them afterwards. It don't work that way.
Mayor Moser would offer discussion items on the current status of the tax abatement plan within the city of Monessen, the development of economic development task forces within the city of Monessen, and the status and potential need for expansion of the code enforcement office and its various functions within the city of Monessen. In addition, the mayor will discuss the implementation and approval of CDBG funds for fiscal year 2023.
In other words, I get a chance to ramble for just a couple minutes. First off, I did send out 122 letters to everybody that I could find that had any reference to a tax forgiveness program through the prior administration. The purpose of the letter was to get information from them. Did they actually enter the program? Did they have a copy of the developer's agreement? Are they interested in doing anything? Basically trying to find out, are these valid people to begin with? I got back a number of them that were, in fact, not deliverable, that the addresses were no good. I have to research that a little bit more. I got back some by the heirs that say that their parents had died and they have no interest in continuing this. And I got some back that were, yes, I'm very interested in doing something and I want to go forward with it. Tax claim office is doing the same thing in a different format. They're sending letters to these people saying, you owe us this tax for the schools and the county, unless you can show us that you have a developer's agreement. So it's a two-pronged effect. I already talked about the county court of common pleas now moving 400 to 500 properties through the judicial system. But in the course, first off, Tom Hardy, I met Tom Hardy last year. He impressed me back then when he was working with the Blighted Review Board. Mark Bloor asked me to attend some of those meetings before I was mayor, and I met him at that time. I was very impressed by him, but I really didn't understand his role until he walked through the door early last week. The point being is, you might recall that in their prior council meeting just last month, we had a motion to give the county $7,500 to develop a Blighted plan. But yet we already had a contract I was unaware of with Tom Hardy to do the same thing. I went to Greensburg to get all this straightened out. First off, the Greensburg Planning Commission had nothing but the very best things to say about the Housing Alliance and Tom Hardy. So, and they also said that they would discontinue that agreement that we had and refund us any money, which we hadn't paid yet anyway. So anyway, that was, I think we got a far better solution than what we thought we had last month. There will be a new zoning ordinance that's presented to the Planning Commission later this month. It'll be the first public viewing of a new zoning ordinance for the city to see what the new zone ordinance is going to be. I believe that'll be next Thursday, as a matter of fact, at 6 o'clock for those that are interested. Just prior to that meeting, we were notified just yesterday there's 2022 CDBG allotment is $307,886. That's $10,000 less than it was last year. That number fluctuates up and down every year, so that's not out of the realm. That first reading of that CDBG allotment, and anybody that's got any ideas, will be at 4 p.m. next Thursday prior to the Planning Commission. So anyway, and all this will be in the advertising newspaper as well. So those that are interested are welcome to come. All this really leads to the need for an updated survey. In 2014, a survey was done of blighted properties, and he had 297 properties, or 276 properties, excuse me, that he had identified in 2014 that were blighted. In 2018, with work that the city did, they came back with 375 properties. That was 4 years ago. 2022, what is the exact number today? So it's important that we at least identify where we're going to start with blight and start updating those numbers and addresses and so forth. Those are things that I'll be working with Tom Hardy on. The Brian Lawrence, which is the redevelopment authority / land bank for the county. He flips his hat around depending on which he wants to be, but he will be meeting with us next Wednesday, the 15th, for purposes of updating us on the plans of the county and what they have going on and what they're going to be doing, and providing us with some software to help us do this. One of the things that you touched upon, which I feel is very important, is so we go out and we do this survey. We're going house to house, and we're seeing these neighborhoods that you have blight after blight after blight. But in between the blight after blight, you might find a house that has somebody living in it. Maybe the house is well taken care of. Maybe it's close to being well taken care of. Maybe it's got a broken porch. Maybe it has a failed gutter or a failed roof or whatever the case may be. Going through and identifying blight is much more than just addressing the blight. Basically, I sent out an email to a whole group of people this morning. The HUD, the USDA, the Department of Energy, the Westmoreland County Housing Authority, and there's others. These are all entities that offer grants for people that own houses that need some support. That I want to be able to get these people that are going house to house to stop off at the place that's next door that has somebody living in it, and at least making contact with them, giving them some information and saying, there is help for you to fix your house up. That we're more than just trying to demolish houses, we're trying to improve the quality of life for everybody. And I think this is a very important part of the process. So I'm trying to form an advisory coalition of these entities that have the money. And I'm hopeful, my goal is for them to be able to train the people that are going door to door such that they can make this available to those people. And then we have workshops, maybe here, maybe some other place. It could be any place where we invite these people to come in and have hands-on interaction with them, help them, guide them through this process of making the application for the grant. Help them, because we're talking about people that may not be aware of how to do this. They may not have the internet access. We need to provide hands-on help. So anyway, that's an important part of this. I think that's really all that I really wanted to talk about. Things are moving forward, and we're going to keep on going. At this time, I want to turn it over to Councilman Ordinance, our Chief Financial Officer.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor and Council, on a motion to transfer $6,900 from the general fund to the health care fund to replenish the account for payments.
Is there a second?
Second, Mayor.
Any questions? Call the roll.
Councilman McGregor?
Aye.
Councilman Nestor?
Aye.
Councilperson Thomas?
Yes.
Councilman Orchakowski?
Yes.
Mayor motion.
Yes.
Make a motion to transfer $64,898.28 from the general fund to the payroll account for allocated expenditures.
Second.
Any questions? Call the roll.
Councilman Nestor?
Aye.
Councilperson Thomas?
Yes.
Councilman Orchakowski?
Yes.
Councilman Gregor?
Aye.
Mayor motion.
Yes.
And a motion to pay the following invoices from the general fund account in the amount of $63,668.08. These expenditures are referred to as attachment A in the packet.
Is there a second?
Second, Mayor.
Any questions? Call the roll.
Councilperson Thomas?
Yes.
Councilman Gregor?
Aye.
Councilman Nestor?
Aye.
Councilman Orchakowski?
Yes.
Mayor motion.
Yes.
Motion to pay the following invoices from the Parks Fund account in the amount of $1,669.29. These expenditures are referenced to the mayor and council as in the 10 packet as attachment B.
Is there a second?
Second, Mayor.
Any questions? Call the roll.
Councilman Gregor?
Aye.
Councilperson Thomas?
Yes.
Councilman Nestor?
Aye.
Councilman Orchakowski?
Yes.
Mayor motion.
Yes.
A motion to pay the following invoices from recreational account in the amount of $193.87. Again, those expenditures are referenced to in attachment C.
Second.
Any questions? Call the roll.
Councilman Nestor?
Aye.
Councilman Gregor?
Aye.
Councilperson Thomas?
Yes.
Councilman Orchakowski?
Yes.
Mayor motion.
Yes.
And a motion to pay the following invoices from liquid fuels account in the amount of $1,259.37. Of course, these expenditures are referenced in the packet as attachment D.
Is there a second?
Second, Mayor.
Any questions? Call the roll.
Councilman Gregor?
Aye.
Councilperson Thomas?
Yes.
Councilman Nestor?
Aye.
Councilman Orchakowski?
Yes.
Mayor motion.
Yes.
And these are the following balances in each account. Liquid fuels, and this is as of 6/7/22. Liquid fuels has a balance of $56,365.64. Debt service has a balance of $525,905.16. The payroll account has a balance of $7,066.40. The healthcare account has a balance of $3,147.67. The American Rescue Art Fund has a balance of $44,213.65. The Recreational Board has a balance of $1,395.89. The Grant Fund, which is for the police, has a balance of $53,719.65. Fire Escrow has a balance of $23,170.99. Excuse me. Parks has a balance of $86,813.85. Line usage has a balance of $399,560.71. And for the final one, our general account, as of 2 days ago, has a balance of $906,804.76. That's my report, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilwoman Thomas.
Good evening, everyone. We were just holding off until making my report for the streets of public improvement and library for at our next meeting on June 23rd.
Okay, thank you. Councilman John Hester.
Thank you, Mayor. Members of council, administrative staff, citizens of Monessen, I will not be giving my report until next following meeting. I also would like to thank Councilman Orchowski, the Mayor Moser, and Administrative Korposh on assisting me last week with code issues that came about. I would also like to do the second reading. Here is the second reading of ordinance of the City of Monessen, Westmoreland County, Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, amending Chapter 300 of the City Code of Ordinances, the Quality of Life Ordinance. Other than that, Mayor, I yield the floor. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Gregor.
I'll be giving my Parks and Public Property report next council meeting.
Okay.
Also, I do have a motion to approve coverall for cleaning services in the City of Monessen at the City Hall and Police Department locations at a rate of $450 for the monthly City Hall cleaning services and $405 for the monthly cleaning services of the Police Department building.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions? Call the
Do
roll.
they have a schedule, weekly, bi-weekly?
It's attached there, councilperson, yeah. If you look at that packet, they outline what they're going to be doing over the course of the month.
Any other questions? Call the roll.
Councilman Orchowski,
Yes.
Councilman Nestor,
Aye.
Councilperson Thomas,
Yes.
Councilman Gregor,
Aye.
Mayor Moser.
Yes.
Also, we have a request for the potential of funding expenditures for the purchase of a batting cage at the Shawnee Park. For permanent cost construction, can upkeep will be part of this discussion. Lois, would you fill us in on that?
Yeah. Is Christy here? Christy is actually here today. She's in charge of the softball in Monessen at Shawnee Park. Is it okay if she comes up?
Yes. Here's your mic.
Just state your name one more time. Just state your name
1106 Athalia Avenue.
so they can hear you.
Christy Telegraphist from 1106 Athalia Avenue.
Just tell them what you're requesting from the city.
So we're hoping to get a batting cage up at Shawnee Park for the girls so they can practice softball up there when they're before the games, after the games, and when they have practice. The other baseball fields have them. We have enough room up there to have it on either the outside of the field, in the outfield, and also where the bleachers are, between where the gate is that opens on the one side of it to go all the way down. But there's enough room there because the bleachers are moved down now, so that's what we're hoping for. We don't need an expensive one. We range anywhere from $300 and up, and we don't need anyone to install it because I volunteered my husband to. So it will definitely benefit the girls of Monessen because it will also help their middle school team and high school team. Because as of right now, they don't have one.
So they will be.
Oh yeah, we don't have any problem with that. Like right now, they don't use the field, which I mean, like we're not allowed to use the middle school or high school field whenever they have practice and games. But what I meant by that is that it'll benefit the high school, middle school team because of yes. So.
Let me just ask a question. There were several different ones that you identified that ranged in price quite a bit. If one was to look at how long these things are expected to last, what is your estimation?
It depends, I guess, on the kind. I only sent a couple. I actually give you, submit more, and to see how long they would last, but I can give you more information on that. But actually, the one that was, I think it was $700, that one was galvanized steel, which I believe lasts longer than the other ones.
What about the netting?
Oh, the netting actually is, that one lasts longer. I'm not sure. I don't want to tell you the wrong information, so I'm not sure.
When is the season that you'd be using this?
Well, we play spring and fall. So it goes from, practices start anywhere from March, and our season this year for spring ends the 3rd week of June. But then for fall ball, we start back up. Actually, we kind of start in, I want to say, kind of August, and it plays to the end of October.
You would be taking this up and down?
No, not, the batting cage doesn't, it stays up the whole time.
It would stay up the whole year?
Yeah.
She starts up in the fall. Is the new sewer line going through Shawnee Park?
It won't affect that though. The guy, the contractor actually talked to me, and it's going in the outfield.
Definitely gonna have to be involved in some way to make sure it's installed appropriately, because the liability is gonna come back on the city at the end of the day.
Well, I think we should look into it for sure, get it done as soon as we can.
Right.
But I really would like to see some examples, actual examples of them. If you could find some locations that have them,
Okay.
I'd be more than willing to take a road trip to look at some of them.
Question,
Okay.
do we have one at City Park, don't we?
City Park and Columbus. they
Yeah,
both
so
have
we
them.
already have two of them.
We have 2 of them up there. We
So
have
they're right.
Columbus. I just wasn't aware we had one at City Park.
Yeah, there's one at City Park, and there's one at Columbus. Shawnee's the only one that don't have them for the girls.
Well, we'll have to rectify that.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to open the floor to public comment on any subject you would like. Push it up and it'll light up.
Again, I have to ask the people, are you doing anything to get the bookkeeper employed? And I hope you're not waiting for the same bookkeeper that you had part-time, because I don't think you could cut it. You need to get somebody that has experience in doing the bookkeeping. Because we got the school taxes coming, and they're not gonna go out if we don't have the right bookkeeper.
Absolutely.
So please put a full court press like you did with the bids to knock down that house building on 500 Donner. You gotta do the same offense to get somebody in here. And then you got another problem, I hear through the grapevine, you gotta have another city employee resigning or taking his pension in July. So you people gotta be very proactive, because we're all gonna get backed up. And then we're gonna have other problems.
Thank you. Any other comments?
My name is Michael Aldridge. Born and raised in Monessen. But I'm here, and it's ironic what forced me to stop what I was doing and come down today, because it has something, 2 parts I have to talk about. I'm asking, but it will definitely fall into some of the things that was on your agenda. But number one, I purchased the property at 608, 610 6th Street during COVID. That was the former Draper Funeral Home, and I still call it the Old Arch Tavern property, Clarendon Avenue. But I am requesting that the city tear down the building, the last building on Motherell, so Motherell's one way coming towards 6th Street, the last building on the left-hand side, and all I can do is refer to who I knew used to live there, and that was the Grogan, Pearl. It is leaning, the roof has been gone, you can tell it was real lumber because it hasn't collapsed, but it is leaning. but I have a rodent problem. I have paid extensively for exterminators to keep them from coming in my building, but they are huge. They are huge. I mean, they make this microphone look like a mouse, you know. And so I am asking, and I would be interested in the property if it is raised. And then that comes to my second part. Because I'm involved in a lot of other things, I'm a funeral director, okay, and I'm involved in a lot of things. I'm going to use you, Mayor Mosier, as to banter back and forth in these questions. You pay someone to demolish a building, correct?
At some point, somebody's gonna pay some.
You know, demolition,
Right.
just humor me for a moment.
Okay.
So
Right.
you pay to have a building demolished?
Yes,
So they demolish the building. Naturally, they do away with the lumber. It's no longer allowed to drop lumber and roofing in a foundation.
right,
But you allow them, you paying them to tear down a building, then you allowing them to fill the building back up with the brick. All except for, in the city, it's about 8 inches high, so it's about a foot to the top with dirt. So it looks beautiful. It looks like this floor. Lovely, lovely.
right,
So now you get Mr. Hardy to come in and say, man, look at that beautiful land. It's flat as a table. Until he sticks a shovel in there.
right.
There's where I say you're making the mistake. I mean, I've seen it down Pittsburgh. I've experienced it. I had to dig up some property and I bust my machine. If it was me, I would not allow concrete block and brick and sidewalk to be thrown in a foundation. You cannot market that property once it is cleared and it's filled up with brick and you think there's only, and it's all dirt. There's nothing wrong with filling it with dirt. Number one, you're never going to get to your sewer for a tap in because it's filled with concrete, block, and brick. Number two, who's going to want it? It will cost them a fortune to have all that dug out of there and then hauled away. So while it's already open, you paid for it to be torn down. Why are you, your money, filling it back up and that property is not going to be marketable? Would I be interested in that house I'm talking about? Yes. I would not touch it with a 10-foot pole if the concrete block is thrown down in that hole. And any other property here, that needs to be addressed because I'm in Mount Hall, I'm in the city, in the Pittsburgh, I'm in the Hill District, and I watch these things. And property cannot be sold, so it cannot be marketable and it cannot build homes on it. And then also to get to what you were saying, that what needs to be looked at is how we can get developers and investors to come in here with a business. If we get a business back in Monessen, businesses in Monessen, then the homes can be built. But all the new homes that was built was just plain musical chairs. That's all. We haven't brought, no one new has come into town because there's nowhere to work. They got to drive back into the city, Uniontown, Greensburg, Pittsburgh, wherever. You know, so if we can entice, I spoke with you just before the meeting started. I do know a gentleman that this was during COVID had hit and then we stopped it. He was willing to come down, me bring him down, and he'd look at Monessen. Because I told him we have the Mon River for transportation. We have rail, and we do have easy access to Interstate 70 through 906. That makes our town palatable for an investor to come in. But we have no land for him to look at. Nobody wants to buy a building for whatever price, spend $50,000 to tear it down, or buy what you got torn down and spend $50,000 just to get the block out of the foundation to do any developing. So that is the reason why I came down today. Number one, I'd love to see that property, the last property on Motherwell torn down. I may be interested. But the problem lies with what you already had torn down. All they're gonna make is parking lots. Because nobody in their right mind has the money, or they don't have the right mind, if they do have the money, to dig up all that concrete slabs again and the foundations. One day I came down and I walked Morgan Avenue, where I used to live, 1012 Morgan. The doggone retaining wall that my dad had put up there is still standing. The wooden steps are gone. The steps to Mount Calvary, I can walk up the steps, the landing, up the steps, and pretend the door's there and walk in. They did nothing but knock down the frames, threw rock in the holes, and left all that other stuff there. Who would buy that property? So how can you develop it? How can you entice anybody to want to come if we don't change the code, or whoever has to change it, about dumping concrete? I spoke to Swissvale code officer about it 2 weeks ago. Munhall, Dave Cannon code, I'm telling him, stop it. I've said it in the city of Pittsburgh, stop it, and I own property. So, and I'm doing a job right now, demoing a building in East Liberty. You know, and I'm saying, we're gonna put dirt in. And the guy says, well, all I'm gonna do is make it a parking lot. I want you to put brick in it. Well, you signed that you want brick in it, then go brick. But you can't market this property. Can you think about that? I think you're working down on 5th Street now, aren't you?
We've completed that project, yes.
Is it filled with brick?
Yes.
Who's going to want to buy it?
Well,
What will it cost to remove the brick that you paid someone to tear down? That's the part that seems, you know, a tad different. You know, you paid the guy to tear the building down, and then he dumped it all right back in the building, waiting for the next guy to buy it that have to pay to dig it out, because you'll never get a sewer tap. So that is my thing of how we can help Monessen, or, you know, I'll talk to you later about what properties you might have, and ask my friend, is he still willing to come down and look at Monessen and see what we can do. I want to see Monessen grow. I was born and raised here. Well, born in Charleroi Monessen Hospital. I was born and raised in Monessen, graduated from Monessen, and what's left of my family still lives here in Monessen. And I own property, 3 pieces here in Monessen. That's my plight on property.
thank you.
Do you know whether the mini mall, I don't remember, I was little. Do you know whether the mini mall, sorry, do you know whether the mini mall was done the same way?
Yeah.
All
Because I
property
was
is done
younger
the same
then, so
way.
I don't even remember.
All property.
Lois, everything that Mr. Aldridge had said, I researched, I knew about Morgan Avenue. My problem is you just tore down 500 Donner. Is that filled with brick still?
Absolutely.
Yes.
But bear this in mind, the reason why you don't put the boards down there, the sticks down there, is it decays, and it's not an engineered fill. Bricks, it turns out to be an engineered fill. It's not to say that you can't build anything on it, it depends on what you want to build on it. It can become a foundation.
But first you have to clear, don't you have to clear it first?
You have to well, depending on what you're going to do there, you may want to level it, you may want to do lots of things. You don't necessarily have to remove the brick, depending on what you're building.
That's when we just.
But also the other part of this is it's purely economics. It's purely economics, and that's what it all comes down to, is money. It always does. Bricks is heavy. You pay to go to the dump by weight. And the cost to take the brick to the dump and dispose of it at the dump would have been just astronomical. So
I agree with that, Mayor. Like I said, I do that. But you also, filling them up with sidewalk and concrete block and brick, it is not palatable. If they want to put a basement back in there, they got to dig it all out, and they're going to take it somewhere and dump it again.
well, they have to dig it out either way, whether it's dirt or
Isn't
whatever.
Monessen High School sitting on half of Morgan Avenue? That's where they dumped all that brick down in that gully. That's how it got to be level. That's where Monessen High School is sitting. But yes, I totally agree, and they stopped that years ago, dumping lumber and stuff, because yes, it rots and it would constantly be sinking. Brick don't sink, but you're sure not going to build on it. I broke a machine digging down in and
They
not
built a
knowing
high
it was
school
filled
on it
with brick.
apparently. They built a high school on it apparently, so you can't build.
Does it have a basement?
Well,
Does the Monessen High School have a basement?
They have cage and a cage area, don't they?
They have a basement,
Yeah.
Okay. Well, they didn't fill it all the way to the top with Morgan Avenue. That's where First and Second Morgan's at. That whole,
there's always ground preparation regardless what you build on. It's gotta be proper for whatever you're building, so.
all right, I'm just suggesting you'll find out when somebody go to buy the property and then turn around and walk away from it for the cost. They gotta dig up the rock, and then what are they gonna do with it?
There's two ways to look at this. We could sell the lot for $50,000 and pay to move the brick somewhere else. Or we sell the lot for $100 and let them engineer their own building.
But you paid the man $50,000 to tear it down.
We paid them $115,000.
But you paid him $115,000 to tear it down. And then he just filled it back up with the brick that was there, already there. So he walks away with $115,000.
Well, not
She
quite.
buy it, and it's gonna cost her $100,000 to move the brick.
Okay,
That's
well,
not a
thank you.
win-win situation to me. It win-win, he tore it down and he walked away with $115,000 without heavy work. But now, the next person come along, I wanna help Monessen, I wanna go into business here. And it start out in the hole by removing brick. It's gotta be dumped somewhere. So why didn't the original man, while you had the hole open, dump the brick somewhere?
Right.
I do like Braddock did. That hospital was all brick. They brought a machine in and it chipped it up like mulch.
It's interesting, I was also contacted by two young men this week. And what they do is brick pointing. They redo brick buildings. And they pointed out that they take this old brick from these buildings that's torn down, clean it all up, and use it for replacing brick in other buildings, or even building new buildings with it. So there is a possibility of recycling brick in the future too.
It's a big business. People build new homes with used brick because of what new brick costs. And in the color, in the solid concrete that they used, good concrete when they built these homes back now. You can't buy that today.
As there's demand for that brick, we will absolutely do that, I agree.
There was enough bricks for $500 to build an in-house.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely.
The cost to clean that brick up was the issue with
Well,
that.
who had the sign out there selling it?
The guys that were tearing it down.
Why didn't they take it all away then?
Nobody wanted it, nobody would pay them for it.
Just find out that is just so backwards.
It's all economics, all about the dollar. Any other comments by anybody on any other subject?
I got just one question.
I'd like to say something. What Mike just said there makes a lot of sense. I've been in construction for 25 years, and I've run a company. What he's basically telling you is cheap is not the best way to go. So if somebody tears a building down and fills a hole with brick, then somebody goes and buys and does a test to it to make sure that you can put a foundation to it, and it fails, they'll cost a ton of money to get those bricks out of there. That's what he's trying to tell you. It's a waste of money.
The lowest bidder, I've
Let me
argued
finish,
this
Mike.
for years. The lowest bidder is not always the best way to go.
Mike.
Because he's got to cut corners to make more money.
I agree.
Let me finish, Mike. It's terrible, you know, the way that you explained it to, you know, your answer to them, it really sucks. Because it's not a true answer. What he's trying to tell you is common sense. Any construction company will tell you, you pay hell to try to dig it up. Even though you put 2 feet of dirt on top, it ain't gonna work for somebody. So if you're trying to bring business in, to put in a spot, somebody's gonna find it out. And if you can sell it for 50 grand, let me know.
That's what I'm saying. You
I'll
can't.
give him a first name, be a
Right.
fool.
That's what I'm saying, you can't.
I'll tell you the first test. Didn't you just sell the property down by Lucchese's?
The redevelopment authority did, yes.
Watch and see what he say when you start digging.
Yep.
Watch and see when they
He
bust their
doesn't
machine.
have too much money.
Watch and see when they bust their excavator. I'm telling you, it has happened to me.
Well, is the contractor permitted to do that? Is it?
Yes.
The engineering specs actually calls for that.
You allow them to do
He's
that.
permitted to put that brick in there.
It was actually in the specs to do that. Maybe the specs need
Well,
to be
he's not
changed.
violating any law.
No, there's no law. It was all about economics.
Well, that's
It's all about the
up to
dollars.
contractor.
So what you're saying is basically economic is what made that building come down.
Right, we could not have afforded to do that if we had to dispose of the
So
brick.
that's cheap, right? So the guy had the opportunity to dump all that garbage, all the bricks in a hole. That's what you're saying.
He dumped all the bricks
What
in.
he's trying to tell you, again, and I'm trying to tell you, in the construction business, it works not the way you think it does, because I don't know what the hell you did before you came here, but all I can tell you is this: it ain't that easy.
I agree.
Yeah, there is specs to every building, and that's what you're gonna be found out.
It can be changed. That's all I'm saying. It's something to think about. If you want to market this property, ask Mr. Hardy, he's in the blight business. Ask him, would he buy property that got half of your sidewalks, your canopy?
The next building that's gonna come down is going to be the Fifth Street Hotel.
Fifth Street Hotel, all brick.
That will be done by the Westmoreland County Redevelopment Authority. We will have nothing to do with that other than they are doing it. They own the building now, the land bank owns it. That will come down probably the end of the summer or sometime early fall.
That's a big hole.
It's a big hole.
Mayor, on that note of Fifth Avenue hotels, the next building gonna come down too, 'cause I believe if you remove Fifth Avenue, it's gonna fall down. It's already-
I think both adjacent buildings, both on Fifth Avenue and Schoonmaker
it's already-
are included.
already collapsed.
Yes.
I just have a question for, this is Parks and Recreation. Do you spray up city park for fleas and ticks and mosquitoes? Do you spray the park?
Not that I'm aware of, not for ticks and mosquitoes.
Okay.
Just for my last piece, Mayor, would you please put that property on your demo list?
It already is.
Yeah.
It's on that demo list for sure, Mr. Aldridge, because I've seen it there. It's just a matter of when they allocate which houses are gonna get torn down, but it's been on there for a while.
Thank you.
One last question, Mayor. The dirt that's coming out of the big sewage project, are we saving some of it or all of it? Like last time we did a Finvest, we made 2 piles, and I didn't agree with where it was placed, but, it turned out actually to be an asset because they did a lot of backfilling. For a contractor to have the large piles here available to them when they do residential demolition, it makes sense to keep it somewhere in Monessen stockpile so that they can backfill.
Yeah. I don't know how much dirt is going to be involved with that. But I'm sure that they're going to want to put it someplace, yes.
Because everything they dig is going to be back
Right.
in stone.
That's where the fill came for
Yeah, for a lot of the buildings. you
Yeah.
did do.
absolutely.
Excuse me, Mr. Hipple, is that why we had that big mountain for the city park?
Yeah. What?
Whose choice was that?
Oh, look at the time, geez.
I don't miss anything.
Any other questions?
Whole mountain of dirt
One more.
in City Park.
Okay, my name is Steve, 517 Monessen. I'm actually here on behalf of the fire department. 2 things I want to bring up. One, last year on March 1st, I sent a letter to council. There was 2 parts of it. One was requesting tax forgiveness for the year on our Grand Plaza property, and the other one was a letter to take to our assessment hearing. I got the letter. The taxes were never taken off the roll. They said John was going to send a letter across the hall to the tax office, and the taxes went up the county, so they were never removed, the city taxes from last year. Talked to county, they said that somebody would need to send a letter that was approved by council last year to get those taken off. So I'd like to see if we can get that taken care of. It was voted on by council last year, March's meeting, to forgive the city taxes for the year and give us the letter. I have the letter, the taxes were never removed.
Okay.
And then the other question I have is, this has been going on for a while. The end of the month, our first fire unit is going to be out of service. We had an insurance claim back in December because of damage done to a door. The truck will not pass inspection because of the door. This has been going on for months. The claim was settled with the insurance company.
Yeah, Mike, where are we standing on that? Because I remember, the city clerk.
To the chief yesterday with the mayor and I.
Yeah, he tried putting a letter in saying he was told we were too late to get on the agenda, so.
We're trying to get you a supplement to that for the Bowser related.
Okay, well, why can't you just pay the bill and then wait for the insurance? We have to get this truck inspected, because end of the month it's gonna be out of service. That's your first unit out on every fire call in the city of Monessen.
Well, we told him that we think by the end of the week that's gonna finally be settled. And I can
That's
work
what
with you.
we were told 3 months ago.
Well,
It's-
because of some of the procedures, and we can go over it after the meeting of what happened,
Yeah, he was supposed to be here, but he ended up, he had to
well, he
babysit.
indicated that we were okay and he wasn't gonna come to the meeting, we were gonna work it out in a private session and get it done.
Yeah,
You
nothing's
received
getting
the
done.
money to replace the door to get fixed?
No, that's what we're talking
Yeah, it's-
What's the total cost on that, Steve?
Right now, it was originally around $900. The insurance company paid the claim. The money was inadvertently, however, deposited into the general account.
Well, that's where it would be.
Yeah, we didn't know about it, so then when Bowser got us another bid on it because of price increases and everything. I think right now it's somewhere around $1,600, $1,800 to get it fixed.
What we don't want you to do is not get the supplement to pay for the entire cost of the project. That's what
Right.
I've been trying to push them. And it's.
But we're running out, this has
I
been
got it.
dragging on
You
for
mentioned
3,
that
4
the other
months.
day, yeah.
You got to the end of the month and the truck's out of
about.
service.
We now got to the end of the month.
Well, can't
I was
we,
a little shocked, 'cause I thought this was already handled. I
No, this is
apologize.
still going on.
can't we get the truck repaired, the city front the money until we get the balance from the insurance
That's
company?
what I suggested a couple months ago was, why can't we just have the $900, put the balance towards it, get paid to get the truck fixed, and then when the insurance supplementary comes in, you got your money back.
You're saying by the end of this month, it's gonna be out of service because it can't be inspected?
Yeah, you won't pass the state inspection on it.
Why don't next month, the next meeting, we just approve this bill,
Pay the bill.
pay the bill and get this done?
If it's not solved by then, that'd be good appropriate action. Pardon me? If it's not solved by then, that would be.
Oh, yeah, if we don't get this worked out by then, we can put this on the agenda and get it approved, get it paid.
Okay, do we need to put a letter in if it's not resolved to have this on there, or to make sure it goes on the agenda to get this resolved?
I will put a letter in,
Yeah,
Just in
yeah,
case.
just put a letter in,
Okay,
requesting it to be paid so you can keep the truck in service.
okay,
That would be what I was saying.
Sorry, I thought this was already resolved.
no problem. I appreciate your time, thank you.
Anything else?
I have a question, why should the taxes be forgiven for the farm?
It was already done.
Apparently, he says it was already done last year.
Why should
Prior
it be
administration.
forgiven? Why should it be forgiven?
That was prior administration.
You don't forgive mine, you don't forgive me from paying my
I
free
understand.
taxes. How in the world would that ever come about? Forgive a fire company for its city taxes? Oh, what? Is that a tradition, or is that proper?
I believe it was the one time.
Is it legal at one time?
Yes, it
legal
is
today?
Yes, it
That's
is.
ridiculous.
Mayor, motion to adjourn tonight's meeting at 8:02 PM.
Second.
All in favor?
All right.
Aye.